even in young individuals, older.
It was an interesting moment for me at the time because I really wasn't seeking someone or anyone, I should say. I just hoped if I did meet someone that they would be a positive person to meet. Everything he was saying and doing was making me fall in love with him.
A lot of people quit going, that's just how it got to be. But she keeps on fighting and it takes a lot of guts. No justice, no peace!
You two are like two immature cartoon characters.
Objection. Where's any of this evidence of this?
Order!
I'm sanctioning you for $15,000.
I have a right to see my son.
This is all about a child. A poor boy born into a battle.
This is not justice! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No peace! No justice!
You're trying to have a judge removed.
I'll sanction her for thousands of dollars for coming to court.
How much money is Mr. K-Man, Mr. Gee paying you and your fellow judges to keep this woman away from her child?
Said I'm gonna survive, I gotta survive. Even with your lies, I'm gonna survive, gotta survive. Said I'm gonna survive, I gotta survive. Even with your lies, I've gotta survive, gonna survive. Said I'm gonna survive, I'm gonna survive. Even with your lies.
This is the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show. Dr. Meleeka Clary is a clinical psychologist, actress, director, model, and human rights activist. On this program, Dr. Meleeka guides you toward a more fulfilling life through the power of positive psychology. And now, please welcome your host, Dr. Meleeka Clary.
Welcome to the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show, powered by Sweet Recordings, where we're coming live. Woo! Yes, yes, yes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So first of all, I have to give thanks, God. Thank you, God, for giving me another day to be able to do this show, to say I love you to my loved ones. Thank you. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. I have to give praise because, things could be different, but he gave me opportunity and I'm taking it. That's how you do that. Okay. So welcome, welcome. Hopefully everyone's having a okay day. I want to say great, but I say okay because you know what? Okay, I'll take okay. Okay, that's what I'll take. It don't have to be amazing, but it could be all right. I'm still here just doing what I have to do, and you are too if you're tuning in. So with that being said, you know what? I want to give acknowledgement to all my fans. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for watching Three Coins of Deception movie, still available on Prime Video. So if you have not seen that movie, go and see it. We have amazing actors and actresses in it, and based on true events. But go and see it on Prime Video. Go and support that, because you know what? A change is change, and that's what I did in that movie. I made a change, but not even just I made a change by sharing and caring. I made a change for myself. And me allowing myself to be vulnerable. And I say vulnerable because, it's not all the time that you're used to sharing your business or something that happened to you dramatically. And it takes coverage. And I think that's what I gained, because I had enough. When you had enough, you had enough. Now everybody could go ahead and, do a movie. God is good, but you could share what's going on with you. Don't hold that inside. Let somebody know. Because I do this show because I want you to be vulnerable with me and allow yourself to let go. Because if you don't let go, you're going to just keep that inside. And it's just going to stew until one day you're going to have that breaking point and anyone's going to get it. And you're just going to fall apart. So let's don't do that. I know. Let's change. See, you see that word change? Let's change together and allow someone to know that you're vulnerable. And you have something that you want to release. And if it's not your friends, you can go get a therapist or a psychologist like myself, or a psychiatrist or a counselor, anyone. If you feel like you want to, let your friends know, that's fine. It's just that if you're expecting help all the time, that may not always be the cure for that. Only because that is your friend and they don't want to, hurt you. But sometimes they just want to be there as support and for you to vent. But don't stop there. Please encourage, if you are the friend too, encourage your friend to get help. And like I said, you could tune into the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show because I might be talking about you and how you can help yourself without going to the therapist if you don't want to, or going to an office. But if you do, then, please reach out to me. My email, if you notice, there's information like my website and my Instagram and Facebook or anything. It's right there. And I'm on social media, so feel free to Google me. I don't mind helping. If I can't take you as a client, like, I can also encourage you to see other people. I refer you out. That's something I will do all the time. I will give you information that will help you. And if I can't do it, I'll send other people that can do it. So my biggest thing is to help you try to live a better life. Sharing is caring, people, and that's what I do. I'm pro bono what I do things, so I don't charge, so it's okay. Now, with that being said, my time is still valuable. So don't think that I'm just sitting here like, okay, no, I really want to help you. And, you know, it's not about money. It's about your mental state of mind. Okay. Because you can't do many things for yourself if you don't take care of your mental state of mind. So you got to think about it. You can't work. You can't take care of your children. If you have children, you can't operate. So I think that is so more important. And if you take care of your mind, your mental state of mind, you're able to make the money or work somewhere or do things that you love to do. But if you don't take care of your mental state of mind, then you're not going to be able to do anything. And you're not going to be able to help yourself or help anybody else. So that's so important to me. So vibe with me in that moment that we want to take care of ourselves so we can take care of others or just be a good person and mentally sound. How's that? Because that's important. Because even all the things I do, I still got to take care of myself. And I think it's very, very important. So you got to make sure you do that. So listen to me, taking care of yourself so you can be good for you and for others. How's that? We have an amazing show. You know, this young lady's been on my show numerous of times. Like I said, I feed off her energy because she's an attorney, but she's an actress as well. She's a mediator. I mean, this thing, so many. She's a human rights activist as myself. She do a lot of things. And she played in my movie. I don't know if you all know. I don't know if I got new viewers, but she's in Three Corners of Deception. She good too. So you got to go check that out. But you know what? She has passion. We both have passion for helping people. And today is one of those questions, several questions that I'm going to start asking her on things that, you know, related to the legal field or mediation or anything that helps people in questions that she's getting. And if she could do something, you know, how would she go about it? Because there's always someone listening. Because like I told you before, we need a team. You know, there's no I in team, okay? We need a team. So when I say things and I bring guests on the show and they voice their opinions, sometimes we need a unity to get those, you know, to materialize those, to bring them to life. And that's what we do. That's why I utilize my platform to do just that. I want people to listen because we're listening to you. But if we all work together some way or another, we can get something started towards a positive outlook. Okay. So by doing that, I have to, you know, ask questions. How will they do it? You know, the similar questions that's always being asked. Because one thing I will tell you, when you're looking for a lawyer or, you know, of course, this big thing comes up money, but these questions are still, you know, important, you know, so you want to make sure that, you know, you can get those answered and it may not cost you anything. Like right now, see, it won't cost you anything, but you'll listen to it. See, if we start listening, we can try to start living a better life already. See, I know a lot of you who view, you got questions for lawyers. So I'm just letting you know that we are open to answer some of your questions. Now, she is a lawyer that is in Indiana, but just general information as well. Just keep that in mind, you know, because you can Google some information in your state specifically. There are still laws that cater to similarities in different laws. They might say a little different, but it kind of get there to almost similar. Let's just put it that way. But if you are in Indiana, she can answer some questions for that as well. But I'm going to ask, and if you do want to chat and stuff like that's fine too. Give us a chance, but I got some questions of my own. It might answer your question. You never know. So with that being said, and we will be taking a commercial in between. So you know what? I should just introduce her and bring her on after a commercial so we don't get interrupted. How's that? Okay. So with that being said, we are going to take a brief commercial. And we'll be right back with the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show, powered by Sweet Recordings. Do not go nowhere, fam. We will be right back.
Dr. Meleeka Clary is an award-winning director, actor, model, paralegal, clinical psychologist, and YouTuber who focuses on raising public awareness of judicial deception and the importance of mental health. Clary has won several accolades and awards for Three Corners of Deception, including Best Human Rights Director and Best Female Director at the Toronto International Women's Film Festival. She joined HMWP Psychology Counseling in 2019 and has since been creating content for YouTube. Dr. Clary's work has been praised for its insights into the criminal mind, and she continues to be an outspoken advocate for justice.
Welcome back to the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show, powered by Sweet Recordings. Oh, you know what? I'm still working some things out, so I want to make sure that everyone can hear me. So, you know what? So we are back. Now, I'm going to introduce my beautiful, talented, guest, attorney Kristin Szczerbik. Come on in here, beautiful. How are you?
Hello, how are you? My favorite thing you said when you introduced me earlier was the young. Young.
Right.
I appreciate that.
Yes, you're welcome, my dear. I'll take it. It's not a lie, okay? I don't know what you're talking about, girl. Okay. We are young. What's that song? We are young. Isn't it a song like that?
Yes, that is a song, but I won't try to sing it. Yes, it's a good one.
We are young, something like that. Yeah. I don't know the whole lyrics, but I know there is a song and I love it. And when it comes on, I'll be like, yes.
Yeah, it's an anthem.
You know that's right. You know that's right. You know, Kristin, as you was hearing what I was saying, I mean, we're not scripted here. We are live. And here's the thing about it. I'm going to ask you questions and I'm going to give you time to answer it because you're in the field, in the legal field. You're in that field. I mean, no matter what, we're both in fields that we communicate with people and we deal with behaviors as well. And I'm going to ask you this one question that I want to see that there's a legal question that people like to ask. And I know that comes to you and I have viewers watching and I want to see if is that a common question that you always, get? And so if you can answer. So is there a common question that many people always asking you? One question, because I know you have many, but let's deal with that one so far.
I would say broadly speaking, one of the most common questions I get is how can they get a certain problem resolved on their own and access the court system without an attorney? That it just fill in the blank of whatever it is, whether it's how do I get this modification done? How do I proceed with the divorce? And it's always, how do I get this started? And they want to figure out how to do certain things on their own. And that accessibility is really what it kind of comes down to. So I would say that's probably the most common question that I can explain that I get overall. Secondly, would be how the process works, whether it's a criminal case or a civil case. How does this all work? Not everybody is plugged into the criminal justice system or the civil system and what they have available to them. And it's their first time. They don't know what's going on. And they say, how does this work? How can I find out how this works? And whether it's me sitting down and explaining to them or sending them off to a resource. So generally speaking, those are the two most common broad areas of questions that I get from people.
Okay, let's elaborate on that first question. And we have viewers listening. Now, not sure this is a cross the board, how do you navigate, but because you are an attorney in the state of Indiana. So I guess we were limited to Indiana, but in general, there's steps that you could take. I'm sure you can Google and then you'll find out. If it's Massachusetts, you can go to the Massachusetts website, stuff like that. So it's still similar and still the same options, but just different state.
Correct. Okay. And it's not just Googling either. So when people come to a courthouse, a lot of times they're coming there, they have a need or they have a problem and they want a resolution and they just don't know what to do. They'll even go to the clerk's office and maybe they don't know what to do because the system has different ways in different areas of law, different counties, different states. And I think that accessibility starts right there. And there are different answers to that depending on the situation. There are certain sites where people can get legal help with self-help forms. There are even in the courthouses, they have machines, at least in Indiana, where you can print out the forms. However, I would say those machines are very frequently, at least in the counties I'm in, they're malfunctioning, and that can be a little frustrating. Then I'll say to someone, well, you can just print it out at home. I don't have a printer. I don't have the internet. Well, you can go down to the library. Well, I don't have a car. I walked here. So there are a lot of barriers that can happen for somebody. And that first starts with the accessibility. How can they get the information and the forms that they need to even start the process of getting a resolution or addressing what their need is?
Okay. And so if I was looking for information, let's say I'm looking for my case, how do I go and do it?
Every state's a little different. I personally love Indiana because we have a wonderful system, and there are some other neighboring states that I think do a good job. And then there are others that even as an attorney, I don't know what's going on. But in Indiana, we have a free system. It's mycase.in.gov. I tell every client I have about it. It's on every single engagement letter that I have, and I remind them, this is how you can access your case for free at any time. A lot of people do have cell phones, not everybody, but most people do. And you can get online and you can have the power to look up your own case. So a lot of times we'll hear people say, I didn't know. Well, you have to know because you're accountable for knowing. Because if you don't show up in court, a judgment can be held against you. You could get a bench warrant if it's certain types of cases. So it's important to have that access. Other states do have that. I couldn't give you the list of everybody, and some don't. So it's a little harder, but that's wonderful when they do have that available. So that's kind of the first step in that process.
Okay. And so what do they need when they do to go to my case?
It's free. You just need internet. And if you don't have internet, you need to go to the library or ask a friend.
Okay. So, all right. So basically I go to my case. I believe I'm going to need some information like last name, first name.
It's yourself, you just plug in your name. If it's somebody else, you plug in their name as long as it's not a confidential case.
Okay. And so you will need your case number. How's that?
Maybe. Usually you can look it up by first and last name. Now, sometimes the system has a little glitch. Some people have a hyphenated name, or they have a spelling that you didn't realize there was an extra E in there. And so you can have trouble finding it. Even I've just the way it's entered sometimes. And it is helpful to have that cause number, but you don't have to have the cause number, and you can look that up. If you actually have an active case in Indiana, there are certain times you can even sign up for text notices from courts. I know in some of the counties here, the judges will ask, do you have a cell phone? Do you want to be signed up for text notices? So it's yet another layer to help people have more accessibility to knowing when their court dates are and what's going on, so they don't feel left in the dark.
Okay. And there is other options down there, like the categories. Do you check those boxes that apply to you?
Yes. And do you mean when looking up a case?
Yes.
Yes. So you can have last name, you can have cause number, you can even look it up by attorney, all the county. So you need to know what county that it's in. And if all that fails, but you at least know what county it's in and you have trouble looking it up online, you can always call the clerk's office of that county and ask them.
Okay. How about if I had a warrant and I didn't know? Like somebody said you had a warrant on it.
You're not going
to know. You're not going to know if you had a warrant, but
maybe.
Okay. So
maybe you will, maybe you won't. So sometimes you'll know about a warrant. For example, let's say you have a criminal case, you had an OWI, and then you had a pretrial conference, you failed to show up, your attorney wasn't able to get it continued, and the judge issues what's called a bench warrant. That's for failing to appear. That frequently will show up on the My Case system as a red flag. You'll see the red W, big W, but it's not for winner. It's for warrants, and it's red, and it means you have missed an important date. And if you have an attorney, or even if you don't, you can, if you had a just cause for missing that, you can attempt to get it recalled. But otherwise, if you can't, you need to turn yourself in. But not all warrants show up like that, because in criminal cases, when cases first start, sometimes that's not public that there is a warrant. They don't want the person to warrant. Sometimes I'll have a client that's incarcerated and they're trying to figure out what holds or warrants they have elsewhere, and it won't show up until they're released from this county in the jail system. So you don't always know, just to be clear, and there's reasons for that. from the state's perspective. But things like if you missed a court date and you get a bench warrant, that is typically in the system. You'll see it. And I get people that will call me and say, hey, why do I have a warrant? I say, hey, you had court. Where were you? So sometimes people do find out that way.
Okay. All right. So let me make sure I'm clear. So I can check, maybe there's options for that. If I'm looking for a family case or mine, it says family, or is there also like citation or anything like that? If I'm looking for a citation.
Citation, like an infraction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there are different ways besides my case to look up these cases, and those other ways can have you looking it up differently through Odyssey. Some people do use the DocsPop, but honestly, the mycase.in.gov is the simplest way, at least in Indiana, for someone to look up a case. If you can't find it on there, probably call the clerk's office.
Okay. All right. Great. So right now, you guys know my case in Indiana. Okay. A little different, maybe in different states, but these are the options that you could start looking up information about a case that you may have, or you could deal with your last name or your first name and put the information in. This is the first start. And the reason why I ask this question is because I think it's so helpful, because many people don't know how to look up if they have an open case or not. Or if they did open a case and they only have an attorney and they don't know how to get the information for themselves. And they're waiting for an attorney to call. And sometimes the attorney, whoever you have, are charging you for the minutes you talk on that phone. So therefore, if you're doing that and you just want to know what date, there's possibility it might came out and your attorney may not know the date yet. And you might see it and they didn't get it, electronically yet. But you might find out if you just go on there and look and say, oh, I got a court date on blah, blah, blah. Because mind you, you're not the only client that the attorney has too. So that could be in their filter of emails and they will get to it. But you could do something too and it'll alleviate that stress. Because some of us get that anxiety that, where we go? What was going on? What's going to happen? And that's what I hear from a lot of people. So those are little simple things that you can do to alleviate a little bit of stress and anxiety for yourself. Okay. So with that being said, thank you, Kristin. I appreciate it. We are going to take a brief commercial and we will be right back with the beautiful attorney Kristin on the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show. Don't go nowhere, friend. We'll be right back.
And I wanted to do the show, which I was asked to do so, but I had to do it my way. And my way is this. I want to know, who are you? I mean, I could tell you what I am. I'm a filmmaker, I'm an actress, I'm a mom, I'm a doctor. But who am I? Who do I identify myself as to myself? You have a lot of people walking around here and they don't know who they are. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's about. It's who are you? Because I interview celebrities, I interview doctors, lawyers, average folks. I mean, you could be a nurse, it doesn't matter. I'm going to interview, but I'm not just going to interview about you. I'm going to interview, who are you to you? Who do you identify yourself? Because believe it or not, that's a very interesting question. Right. And a lot of times it's hard to answer.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't understand that.
Welcome back to the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show on the Powered by Sweet Recordings. We're just trying to figure out some other things here, so sorry for the delay. All right, come on back here, Attorney Kristin.
I'm here. Hello.
I know. I'm up here just trying to figure out things, and I'm like, what's going on? So that new change, that's how that worked, that new change. Okay, so thank you for elaborating that. How about the next question? Can you elaborate the process on the next answer that you had of the common asked questions?
What's going to happen? How does this work? What can I expect? It's the process question. Now, if you have an attorney and they're able to explain that's wonderful. But kind of going back to the accessibility, you brought up a good point that some people think getting an attorney resolves all your issues on that, but it doesn't necessarily. So when I talk about accessibility as an area that really needs to be focused on in the legal world altogether, I mean it from several different facets. One is just getting access, like you said, to the case. And just because you have an attorney doesn't mean you still have access to all the areas you need, because I can't tell you how many times I have had people come up to me and they had a different attorney and they said, well, I never met with that person. I didn't know what was going on, what was happening. Thanks for meeting with me. And, it kind of starts there. Also accessibility. When they're actually in the courtroom, they want to feel accessible with the judge hearing them. But going then forward, as you're talking about the understanding and having the process explained, there are different ways that can happen. And it should be happening if you have an attorney through your attorney. Say, here's what happens next. There's ABC. It can be done through a consultation, through meeting. It can be done through literature and written communication and pre-prepared letters. It also can be done, this is an area where it can be done online. However, there's always a lot of caveats in law. You can get a general broad overview of how a case is going to move forward. And there are some wonderful sites out there that will explain it, but it's nice to be able to have someone who's familiar with the system who can explain the caveats. Well, normally it can go this way, but expect XYZ because there's something different about your situation.
Yes. Now, let me ask you now, what question, and I want to say that I kind of want to say, if there was something that you can change to make it easier, is it something that we could do? Give me that one, and I'll go into the 2 and 3 if you have. But to make it easier, because like I said, not everybody went to law school, not everybody know the law, but to make it easier, and if you could, now you may not have the ability to make that change right at this moment, but people are listening, and you never know who's listening. And they may have the ability to do something. So because you have the experience and you hear the people. So what would be that one thing?
It really would be the accessibility and the notices of what's happening. Not everybody gets notices sent. Of course, some people don't keep their addresses up to date, but really staying in touch with what's going on with the case, so you know when you're supposed to be there, so you don't have that anxiety of that, what the next step is. So that really is for me. For example, when I said earlier that some of those machines are down in the counties, I find that really frustrating. And so then I'm trying to help people who aren't even my clients, trying to print out forms. I wish that those were always attended to. I honestly don't know who's actually responsible for those. I don't know. I don't know the clerks or from the state. I really don't. Maybe there's an 800 number on the machine I should look at, but that gets frustrating for me. And then also, not everybody has a computer, and then when those machines are down, it'd be nice to just at every single county have certain forms across the state. They can self-file and they're pre-printed and they're right there. You can come in and here's family law things, here's criminal law things, here's small claims, whatever it is. And you can just pull it out and file it. So many times I have people with family law who just want to file an agreed modification between them and their mother or ex-spouse, whatever it is. And really it's simple. You put it in writing, but then it's confusing because, you know what? You have to put the case caption on the top. Well, what's a case caption? Oh, you know what? You have to make sure you put service on the bottom. Well, what's that? Oh, you know what? You also have to put a proposed order for the judge. Oh, you do? Well, these are all things that can be pre-prepared. And in some counties, like one of our bigger counties in the middle of the state, does a really good job with those pre-prepared legal forms. But it still is, where do I go to get it? Why isn't it just right there? Why can't I just walk up and get it? It'd be great to have those every court, every public library, and maybe some other places. I think I would like hospitals to have them. That's a whole nother area about paternity that I have a passion about that I don't think people have accessibility to, but that's another issue. But generally speaking, that's one of the first things I would do. I would resolve so many just general questions that I get with people wanting to figure out what to do next.
You know what? And that's a valid point, because when you think about it, I have to say this. I've been to Hamilton County Court, and one thing I've seen, and this is something that I noticed. Now, I might knew what to do, but they have an office, I think it's on the 3rd floor, and that's a computer. And it has, I think, 2 computers and an empty desk that I hardly see somebody in. Okay. If a person's really supposed to be there, I don't see nobody there every time I go there. that could be assistance. So if that's what they're trying to initially do, then that could be assistance, just general information, because you always hear, I'm not an attorney, I can't give you advice.
You can't give legal advice.
I get
they can
that.
tell you where the form is.
But you could see the form, and there's a template that could be like, okay, this is where the case number goes. This is what the motion right here. What do you want to go, and what are you want to ask the judge to do? Because that's the communication. Put it right here. This is general educating individuals. I see that could be. And I don't know if that would be like a budget issue, like, oh, we got to pay more money. But if you already got something there in corporate that explain a little bit to people that come out and try to, fill out these forms. I think that maybe that should be in a description in the hire that you may have to communicate with some people, the public, about just the general information of how to fill out these forms. Because that right there,
instructions on there. Some of those through the legal self-help do have instructions. There's like a family law packet, of course. In one of the counties I'm in, every single week, nobody can really access it because that system is down. They have to access it differently, but the printout machine. But anyway, those forms exist, not in every single area of the law that I would like to see, but they just are not present in all the courthouses. And that's what's kind of frustrating. Like, I know it's there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's just get it there. Let's put it in there already printed. If your machine isn't working, and people can pull it out. And I would like to see more explanations. It doesn't have to be a legal explanation, but people are not going to go through the Indiana rules of procedure or whatever state they're in and say, I have to do what on this form? Something simple, like at the bottom where it says you have to serve both sides. It should already just say that on there and fill in the blanks out for simple things. And people will do that at their own risk, always, if you don't want an attorney, but it should still be accessible in every courthouse, in my opinion.
Yes. You know what? That opinion's validated. I like the fact that you said, and I think people don't understand this part. When you fill out something and you file a motion of something, it has to do with another individual, you always have to correspond and send them information. Mailing is the best thing, because emails, I don't know, that doesn't really say that's the best unless electronically and you got the information. It does kind of like waver on that, but mailing is the best. So you got to have these people's information, or they could say they never got it,
right?
Or you never sent it, or you didn't certify. That's another thing. Or you may have to certify some things to make sure you get a green card sent back to you, especially if it's something about child support, something like that. You may want to make sure these people got it. Okay.
Right.
That's so important, because that could get you, a case could be dismissed because of that. They didn't get notice. Somebody could say, I never got notice. Why should I? You know what I mean? It's a lot of factors. So getting that information is very crucial to a case, especially if you're trying to develop it in your favor. So you want to think about that. With that being said, we are going to take a brief commercial. We will be right back with the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show, powered by Sweet Recordings. We are still with amazing Kristin, attorney Kristin. Do not go nowhere, folks. We'll be right back.
Can you tell us about your show, the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show?
Okay, well, the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show on Bold and Brave TV, that is about identification of oneself. So it helps people to start talking and communicating how you feel, what's going on, but not just that. Because that's how depression happens. That's how anxiety happens. Because we're not talking anymore until something really happens. When I ask people about the identification of oneself, I start asking you, what about challenges in your life? Can you tell me, how did you get through it? Because we got many people out there that doesn't understand, like, okay, you're just like me. Well, let me tell you, you are. I don't care what color you are.
Right.
You're still a human being, and you're still, you know, you go through challenges, but show me or explain to me, how did you get through it? And some people come with stories just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you went through it. But here's my viewers, you're just like me. And that helps other people to say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna attack this. I'm gonna stay in this life one day at a time. If that person can go through it and get through it, I can too.
Welcome back to the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show, where we're coming live. Woo! We are still with the amazing attorney, Kristin. Come on, darling. Come on.
Hello.
Hello, my dear. Hello. Well, you know what? It is always a pleasure to talk to you about the legal jargon and things that we should try to educate people. I ask these questions because it's so frustrating, for people. And sometimes you just want to hold their hand and go through it. But we need help. We need help because unity is come together. These are some interesting questions that keep coming to you. And if we can get people to help, maybe we can alleviate some things, you know what I mean? And I think that's so important. Now, I wanted to hit back on something that you said you was passionate about, the paternity. What do you mean by that? There were some things that you were about to go into, and you never know. Maybe we could change some things, or at least let people know what we're thinking.
I would love to change some areas on this, and it's actually something I started a couple times, made some headway, and then kind of peeled back a little bit. But some people that know me and in my practice know I feel passionate about this. But a lot of times, so in Indiana and other states, when someone is born a child is born out of wedlock, paternity isn't necessarily automatically established just because you sign a birth certificate. In Indiana, you have to sign a paternity affidavit. And what's interesting is our statutes say that they should have this legally, explained to them, and it's legal information, like this affects your rights to this human being, how you fill out this form. However, there's no teeth behind it if it isn't explained fully or explained properly. And the other problem is it's not an attorney that's explaining this. It's usually just someone at the hospital hey, you got to give them this form and explain these things. And mostly what happens is they're just given the form. And even if someone does their best to explain it, they're not an attorney, and they're being expected to explain legal concepts that can affect someone for the rest of their life and their rights to this child. And then what happens down the road, the couple's not married, they break up, and now we have a paternity custody case. And the first thing I'm like, well, what's the paternity affidavit say? What are the rights right now? And they all say, I didn't know that's what that meant. I didn't know what I was signing. I didn't know I was giving that person these rights, and then I wasn't getting any of my own. And now I can't see my child, and we have to go back to square one. So that's been a passion project of mine that I've been trying to figure out how to have an access line that is staffed by attorneys. Free of charge, 24/7. And I have started putting some statistics together about how many births there are and all these things of that, and looking at what was available. In the meantime of me researching that, the Department of Child Services has come up with a phone number where you can get information on it, but it's not the same as what I'm talking about. So I do think this is still a service that could happen and could actually prevent a lot of these legal problems down the road, so that somebody is informed what it means when they're signing this. And, they just went through having a baby, and not just the mom, but the dad, they're tired. They don't understand this. Nobody's probably talked to them about it beforehand. And they're just thrust this piece of paper. And these check boxes that you put on there, that determines what your rights are. And that's a pretty big deal.
Well, you know what? Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm clear, because I want to make sure I'm clear. So if an individual doesn't sign, now we know if they don't sign the birth certificate, the mother is on there. And then later on, if the father or father, however the relationship is, they have to do a paternity test later on to show that this is your child. Maybe in court before you can go to get any type of financial assistance or whatever the case may be. That's normally how it was happening. Is that correct?
Yes. Sometimes paternity test is required. Sometimes the parties will agree. And it also depends if a birth mother, they say there's no father listed on the birth certificate and no paternity affidavit signed, and the birth mother goes to the child support enforcement division through their local prosecutor's office, which is essentially mostly free. I mean, free mostly, but sometimes there's a little fee cost, but in there. But when they go there for enforcement, sometimes they will make them sign, who's the dad, and then the dad they'll do a DNA test, but sometimes they'll agree. So it's not always required. But on those paternity forms, depending on what rights there are, those forms have changed over the years. And there were times where they would require DNA if you're going to have certain rights, or paternity tests if there's going to be certain rights.
Okay. So this affidavit that is being presented during the time the child's born, is this correct?
At the hospital, yes. The hospital is supposed to present it and explain it also.
Now, do they have to sign this?
I don't think they can, hold something to them and say, sign this or else. But I'm pretty sure they're told that they need to sign it. But I don't think they can force, just like you can't physically force someone to do anything. So there's no legal consequence to the hospital if they're supposed to file these within, I think, 72 hours or whatever. If one wasn't signed because the people weren't available or it got missed, I'm sure it can be signed later, but they're supposed to be, just like the same as the birth certificate.
Okay.
But they aren't always, but they're supposed to be.
Okay. So my question is that if both parents are not present at the time,
which happens,
and that's kind of where we're going here. Yeah. If one parent only signs it, is the other parent obligated to sign for the other parent? Or
you can't sign for the other parent. The other parent has to personally sign. But now if obviously the mom's present, right? Because she gave birth.
Yes.
So if the mom says who a father is and puts that on the birth certificate or puts it on, a paternity affidavit, but then it's not signed by that other individual because they're not present, she has at least filled that out. But then we get into a situation where, maybe they don't know who the father is, or maybe they don't want to say, or maybe the father doesn't know. Then we start getting into that situation with what we call the putative father registry, which a lot of people do not know exists or even what that means. So there could be potentially someone who has created a child, didn't know it. The child is born and they later find out. And then that child's getting adopted off and they're like, hey, I didn't even know I had a child. Yes. But there's actually a list in Indiana that if you believe that you may have a child out there that could be yours, you can put your name on that list. And then if that child goes up to be adopted, it's required every single adoption, even if there's been a paternity affidavit signed, you still have to go to the Department of Health and say, hey, has anyone claimed that they are also the father of this child? That they put their name on that list. But who knows that in the general public? Even the word putative father registry, it's such a confusing word. Like, who just thinks of that commonly? It's not just common knowledge. I don't think, personally, I don't think it's out there enough.
Mm-hmm. Now you want to see that change because either one parent did not know something, or if they signed to something and they didn't understand they were signing some rights away.
Correct. So if they check whatever box, they may be agreeing that only mom has all the rights to the child. And they're like, well, even if it's kind of explained at the they may say, oh, we're going to be together. And then, a year later, they're not, or something happens inevitably. And then they realize, oh, I didn't realize that that's what that meant. Because then all of a sudden mom says, no, you can't see the child. And he's, why not? Well, you don't have these rights. So depending on how the affidavit is filled out, you could automatically, as a father, have Indiana parenting time guidelines. Or not. It just depends on what you check on those boxes.
Now, what my other question is that it's not necessarily their rights are terminated, because I thought the only yes. Well, let's make sure we're clear on that. Yes. The only court system that could terminate rights is the Supreme. Is that correct?
No. So local courts can do that, and how that is done is a whole different way. So, for example, when let's say a parent has never been in a child's life and the child's been with somebody else and those people want to adopt, they're going to move to adopt through abandonment and other things. Also through a child in need of services case, if a child is removed and the reason for removal has not been remedied in a certain period of time, then the state, through the Department of Child Services, is actually required, and that time frame has actually been shortened in the most recent legislative session, but I was required to file an involuntary termination of parental rights action.
Okay.
Now they have a full hearing, there's a proceeding, and then if the state is successful in their petition, and they aren't always, but if they are, then the parents' rights can be terminated. So the parents' rights are not terminated without all kinds of legal procedures, steps, and attempts to notify. And even if they don't know where the person is, they're still required to put notices in the paper. We call it by publication. So it doesn't eliminate, the fact that you may have a right to the child, but it does affect your rights on how you fill out the paternity affidavit, or even if you fill it out at all. And people just don't realize it's custody and parenting time is what I'm referencing specifically. And people a lot of times don't realize that until it happens. Then they're like, hey, I thought we had equal rights. I thought I had equal time with my child. And all states are different. You can't, just how Indiana does it. Some states come from more of an equal perspective than others. And I can't speak for every state and every system in every state, but I've always seen that as an area that needs to be addressed. Having practiced family law, as long as I've have here, that message has repeatedly come up again and again and again and again, where fathers are like, I didn't know. And so, well, did they explain it to you? I don't know what they said. We just had a baby. I don't know. Didn't know what it meant. The words might as well have been, a different language, they say. So, and I get it. I understand that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, you know what? It's so important. We are going to take a brief commercial, and we'll be right back with the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show, powered by Sweet Recordings. We'll be right back. Do not go nowhere, fam. We'll be right back.
Even in young individuals, older, communication, active listening, it helps. Because if a person is telling you something, try to listen to something they're saying. I have to say, when you touched about suicide too, people say, oh, well, that's the first time I heard or didn't know. Well, are we not communicating? Are we not talking?
Right.
Because how are you not knowing what's going through in this individual's mind? Are we not asking another person? How can you be a wife or a husband and you're in the same home and not knowing what your wife or husband's going through? And then all of a sudden this person commits suicide. I think we need to change that. Where's the communication? Where is not seeking therapy? Is it our pride? Are we ashamed if we're having these thoughts? Because that's where the mental illness is developing even more. Because people are not sharing or caring enough, or it's a phase. Because that's what I'm seeing. And that's across the board. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be a celebrity, you could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be a server. It doesn't matter. But you're human. So to me, we need to start changing the communication process. We need to talk.
Welcome to the Dr. Meleeka Clary Show, powered by Sweet Recordings. We're coming live. Woo! We are still with the amazing and beautiful attorney Kristin. Come on in here, Dara.
Hello.
Hello. So sweet. Kristin, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. And we talk about so many interesting things. And, that last one before we went on break, the paternity and the affidavit, I think it is really important because, back in the days, and, I got some age behind me, either you sign a birth certificate or you're not, and you're not married. And I do got, I got my own little baby daddy. So, and before it was kind of like clear, you guys ain't married. You don't get on the birth certificate. But now what we're saying is that, we have these affidavits that you might want to read before you start signing things, because you could be signing your rights away. And then when somebody contests against you, you're like, oh, I didn't know that meant that. And that is so important for us to read the small print. And you're right about just a general education. You have a nurse there or a doctor or case manager. How's that? Okay, I think the case manager at the hospital, when you deliver, they want to make sure the child has a good place to go home. They evaluate you. That should be in there too, on how to correctly fill out these forms and make sure the individual understand. Do you understand that you're checking out that box? Do you want to do that? You know what I mean? I think that you make a valid point, because that's the thing about what we're going through now, because many people don't read the fine print. Okay. And it could be laziness, could be like whatever. And it could be joy that they got the baby. It's like, yeah, I don't want to deal with it. I got the baby. Baby, I want to get baby. You know what I mean? Give me that baby. You know what I mean? I mean, nobody want to fill out anything. And to think about to expect the mother, she's already had birth. And it's like, I'm tired. You know, somebody help. And I can see, you know, the calling of why one would not want to read anything after having a baby. But then you have the fact that we have to take a minute and try to educate these individuals, because it could haunt them later. And especially if you're not married. So I see what you're saying there. I think that is such a valid point. Appreciate you sharing that information, because it makes sense. Okay, so what y'all was hearing today, Kristin, it gave you her thoughts, and we're gonna do this again, of course, because like I said, I want you to learn something. But these are things that we are trying to change people. We have more, because Kristin had a lot. Okay, that was just a little bit. All right, you know, already just here a little bit. I get a little bit more and more, and she never know what I'm really gonna ask her. so she's this is right off her head, because I say, Kristin, I'm gonna ask you some questions because I want to know. Because I'm writing down too, like, you know, I got it up here, like, you know, but I could rewind the recording because it's out there, and if I didn't catch anything, I could go ahead and go and look too. See, that's the luxury of having something that's out there, that you can come back to this clip and you can find out the information that what she is talking about. And that's not just, you know, just regular civilians, you guys. That is also the people that can make these changes in the hospitals. You know, like I said, put it in the description when you hire people, that you guys make the description, so we won't be feeling like we're doing overwork, you know, because people like, I didn't get hired for that. Just put it in the description, make life a lot easier. Listen, you have to inform people about the affidavit or information after delivery. That's part of your description, your duty. So no one would just say, oh, you just all of a sudden sprung this on me and now I got to do extra work, because you know people do that too. You know, so you got, I mean, it's a world that we want to just do what we got hired for. But for your employers, this is a simple fix. It is part of educating. Okay. So if you could sit up there and just explain the documentation, case managers, I want to see, it should follow in that category of case managers, I would think, because they do give you the information and they explain. They want to make sure the child's okay when they go home, and, you know, things to make sure things are prepared. So if they're giving you paperwork, I don't know, maybe I'm assuming that case manager, but it could be somebody else who gives you the information. The point is that if we could just take a little bit of time and make sure the individual understands the documentation that they're signing, and not just checking off boxes because they want to be done with it. So that could help and go a long way. As Kristin said, she's passionate about that, because sometime, and it's happening, that they're coming into her office and not know there's going to be a fight now because you didn't sign the right paperwork, or something didn't check off. Is that kind of like the negative that's coming through? Okay.
Yes, that's the part. And the hospitals do have their coordinators who present the information. The issue is they're not attorneys.
Yeah.
And yet the law requires them to explain legal. It's almost like having them do the practice of law without being attorneys. And I don't get where the legislator came up with that, but it is what
they're not. But you know what? They're not attorneys. But if you read something, you could just ask them, do you understand what you're reading? Mm-hmm. And I mean, if I read something out loud and say, okay, you know, it's not about that. It's definition. You're just explaining, do you know what that word means? Because some people don't even know what that word means and still check it out. Okay. I mean, I could say, do you know what affidavit is? Not everybody know what that is either. But I could tell somebody, go look it up, look the definition up, read it. Is that what you understand? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. That, to me, you don't have to be an attorney to do that. Right. So please, you know, I mean, there's simple ways to make sure somebody understands what they're reading. That's all. Because just like they asked me, you know, when an elderly, like, can I talk for my mom? Yes, I can talk for my mom. So I read things for her. Do you understand that? Because that's what we're going to do. Okay. All right. That's how that works. It's an interpreter. They have the interpreter. There you go. Maybe that is the word I'm looking for. Interpretation. Because don't they have interpreters? Yes, they do in the hospital. Do it for the ones who still understand English or across the board. You don't have to be, you know, just bilingual or not or whatever. It's still interpreting.
It's a legal interpreter.
Exactly. And they're doing that. And then they're not giving you advice. They're just making sure that you understand what you're reading. I think that's so important. So thank you, Attorney Kristin, for sharing and caring. And I appreciate you being on the show. And we'll have to get you back on the show. But this is all the time we have of the Dr. Meleeka Clary show today. But I hope you guys got something out of that, because I did. I mean, I already knew a lot of the stuff, but there's something I didn't know. I didn't know about well, maybe I did, and I don't remember. But the affidavit of the paternity and stuff like that, you know? That's interesting to know, people. But think about it. So, with that being said, thank you again, Kristin, and we will see you again.
Thank you.
Dr. Meleeka Clary show. And if you do got Kristin's information, so if you are looking for her, you can always just Google her as well. So if you're looking for the Dr. Meleeka Clary, as you've seen, as we had it running on the runner there somewhere, you can go ahead and Google me, the Dr. Meleeka Clary, on my website, drmeleekaclary.com, or just Google me on Instagram, Facebook. As you know, you're on there. I am not hiding, people. I'm there for you so you can find me. So just to let you know, I hope you got something out of it today. This was wonderful. I love that we can bring something to you and me learning something too, because I don't know everything. But still, it's always good to learn something, you know, new. And so we can help you live a better life. And also myself too. Like I said, I'm not perfect, but I'm a human being. So with that being said, I want you guys to have a wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful weekend. And if nobody said I love you, I love you. I'm going to say that because I care. I do this because I care about people, but I also care that to try to help you make better decisions and to educate you, because I know a lot of people don't have enough time to go to school or they don't have the tolerance for it. And that's okay. We're not judging you, but there's nothing wrong with some people who have tolerance for it and they're going to share the information with you. And there's nothing wrong with that. So that's what I do. So with that being said, I hope you learned something and share it. Don't keep it a secret, because that's the thing about it. It's a major thing. Share with somebody else who don't know. Don't just say, I found this because I know this information. No, you got the information on Dr. Meleeka Clary show. Share that shit. Share that stuff, okay? Share that information. Don't hold it in, because that's my whole thing. Share. So thank you again for tuning into Dr. Meleeka Clary show, powered by Sweet Recordings. And we will see you next week. Until we tune in, enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the weekend. God bless you all. Take care.